So, hello everybody and welcome to our presentation, Usable Software for All. My name is Anna Maier.
Hello, I'm Peter Aichinger.
So Peter, how are you doing?
Don't ask. I'm so frustrated. You know, we just finished our last project and the last week we fully spent on making the front-end part of it accessible. At the moment, I really feel like skipping accessibility altogether for the next project.
Are you serious?
Yes, I am. We had to go through some checklists and add a lot of HTML tags everywhere. It was super tedious and felt like no one is going to really need it anyway. I mean, honestly, how many people are actually blind?
Accessibility is not just about blind users, you know. It's actually useful for a lot of people.
Like whom?
Well, a much bigger group than the blind users are visually impaired users. And for them, you need to build an app which has a good color contrast and zooming behavior.
Okay, there are some more people having problems and issues with their sight.
Yeah, there are of course also other disabilities. I mean, some people, they cannot use the mouse. They have to have a good keyboard navigation. Then there are people with a cognitive disability. They need an easy interface. Deaf people need captions. You get where I'm going.
Okay, I see, but still I think we're talking about a pretty small group of people here.
Do you know how many people in the European Union have a disability?
I would have to guess, no, but I would say something like around 3% maybe?
No, it's a lot more. It's 16%. It's around 80 million people with a disability.
80 million people?
Yes.
Really? Okay.
It's like the population of Germany.
Yeah, right. I gotta admit that's way more than I thought.
Yeah, and this is just a start. I mean, these are just the people that have a permanent disability. But actually, everyone can have a disability from time to time.
What do you mean?
Do you remember when Bernd had an accident and broke his shoulder? Then he could not use the mouse anymore and he had a really hard time programming.
Yes, I remember he was barely productive for a couple of weeks back then.
Exactly. And another example would be you drive in your car and you want to change the radio station and then you need an interface which has big buttons that you can easily hit while driving.
Yeah, that reminds me of something else. When you're sitting outside with your laptop, for example, some websites, they're much better to read compared to other ones.
Exactly. They have a better contrast then. I would actually even go further than that. I would claim that you're disabled when you're stressed.
Disabled when I am stressed?
Yes.
I'm not exactly sure what you mean there.
So when you're stressed or when you drink too much beer, then you have a reduced attention span and you find it really hard to concentrate. So you need an app which is easy and intuitive.
Okay, so what you're basically saying is that accessibility has a much wider scope than just people with handicaps.
Yes.
It also helps you in troublesome situations or helps you to ease personal discomfort.
Yes, I think accessible software really benefits everyone.
Okay, yeah, I think you got some good points there. But you know, for me as a developer, I still have to say it was a truly nasty piece of work to make that interface accessible.
Yeah, maybe you should have started earlier.
Okay, but do you think it would have been less work then?
Well, in the end, yes. I mean, if you consider accessibility early in the design phase already, then you do not end up in a situation where you have an inaccessible solution and you have to re-implement it to make it accessible.
Yeah, that kind of rings a bell. For the last project, for example, we built a date picker ourselves.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I actually liked the control. It was pretty neat. But you know, by the end of the project, it turned out that that thing was not accessible at all.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It took us quite some time to fix that.
Yeah, so start early.
Yeah, I have to confess, in that case, it would have helped us saving some time. But it's really hard to think of all of this all the time. Like, where can you start?
You could start looking at the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG, as some people call them. They're the standard when it comes to accessibility in the web, and they're even picked up in laws.
WCAG.
Yes.
Yeah, what a pretty word, right?
I know.
I'm pretty sure this is this checklist stuff we had to go through.
Probably.
But I wasn't aware of any law issues. What is that about?
For example, there is an EU directive which requires all public sector websites to comply to WCAG.
Okay, interesting. I didn't know that. But luckily, there are quite some tools out there to help you find and spot your issues. We use the accessibility audit in the Chrome DevTools.
Lighthouse.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's a nice one. There are even tools there that you can integrate into your build chain.
Okay, so we currently have it more like a manual step in our process.
So how does this manual step look like?
Oh, it's pretty simple. As I said, we use Lighthouse. It has some kind of progress bar. And when we reach 100%, we consider this as good enough and call it a day.
Well, that's a nice start already. You're on a good track. But when you're at 100%, then only the automated tests are done. You still need to do some manual testing. So you still need to go over the app with the keyboard or fire up the screen reader.
Okay, so you're suggesting using it like a person with a handicap would?
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds totally reasonable. It's a nice approach. You know, it kind of convinced me to give it a shot. But,
nice.
You know, I still have to convince my teammates and get them on board.
Okay, that's hard, but maybe you can start with creating some awareness, in a fun way, of course.
Yeah, I mean, fun sounds awesome, I agree, but Anna, please tell me how to make this topic entertaining?
That's easy, you can make it a game.
Okay.
On the last department event, we had an accessibility game. You didn't see it, right?
I must have missed it.
Okay, let me tell you about it. It was a simple task to solve in TOPdesk, our service management software. And since our colleagues know the software, it should have been super easy for them. But they could not see the screen. They had to rely on the screen reader.
So you're saying you blindfolded our colleagues?
No, that would have been fun. But no, we used a plugin to hide the screen. Because if you blindfold people, they cannot see what they're typing. And that would be super hard.
Yeah, true. But still, it sounds pretty difficult picturing not being able to see the screen at all.
Yeah, so that's why we helped them. So when they got stuck, we moved them out of their corner. We also gave them hints on the way.
Okay, so did anyone eventually accomplish the task?
Yeah, actually, almost everyone did in under 5 minutes even. I mean, we also had this motivation. The fastest one could win a cool prize.
Okay, that really sounds fun. I should have tried it as well.
Luckily, I have a demonstration video.
Okay.
So let's listen.
Self-service portal Mozilla Firefox. Open user menu Dean. Search the portal edit sub-menu. N. Self-service portal search results Mozilla Firefox. Tab control. All. Services forms. 0. Knowledge base. 1. Knowledge base 1 search result login problems when registering hours key 0212 login into the hour registration software lib fails.
All right, quite impressive. I think I would have been completely lost. Did people actually like this?
Yes, they liked it. They thought it was a really nice challenge, and they also liked the atmosphere around this game. And they claimed that for the first time they actually realized why accessibility is useful.
So I assume in that example the interface was already quite accessible.
No. Well, we did check against WCAG before, but as it turned out, it was not so accessible in the end.
Let me guess. The manual accessibility test was neglected?
Exactly. So the tab order was partly confusing. Then there was a menu which opened when you tap through. And when you click on things, there was no feedback that something actually happened. People got really annoyed by this.
They got annoyed? Yeah.
Yes. So they were really hooked up in this role as a blind user, and they were really frustrated in parts.
But on the other hand, that sounds like it really helped them to understand and comprehend how a blind user would experience the interface.
In a way, yes. I mean, a real blind user would, of course, be more pro in operating on this interface, but it definitely gave them an insight into this topic, and they were also really excited in the end. So they had a lot of questions and a lot of ideas for improvement.
What kind of ideas?
For example, on how to improve the navigation or how to rename elements so that you have a better orientation in the interface.
Oh, yeah, that really sounds like it had quite an effect on the participants.
Yeah, and I think there was even a long-term effect. In the months afterwards, we had a lot more accessibility-related questions coming our way. And then there was one team, they dropped everything else and fixed a long list of accessibility issues. That was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, that's awesome, of course, yeah. It's crazy that such a little game can have such an impact. That would probably help to get my team on board, I agree. Do you have any hints or advice how to do it?
Well, since you're just doing this great awareness, I would pick a really simple task and make sure everyone can complete it and have fun.
Okay, but what if you're operating in a more advanced, more complex section of your application? I think leaving users alone with a screen reader would be probably a bit too hard.
Yeah, the screen reader is a really extreme. You could do it much simpler. In the simplest case, you just take away the mouse. There are also disability simulation tools that you can use, so different possibilities.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I will definitely try this out with my team.
Cool.
That will help them also to comprehend why accessibility is actually so important. For me now, the main takeaway is that accessibility has a much wider scope and affects many more people than you might think. And
even you.
Yeah, even me when I had some of those Belgian beers. Yeah. And for me as a developer, I will try to involve accessibility much earlier in our process. I'm sure that will help us save some time and, prevent another date picker.
Hopefully.
Thanks a lot, Anna.
Thank you. Well, thanks for listening. If you have any questions or feedback, speak to us or send us a message.